please.
Egan.
Here.
Mosher. Absent. Wentink.
Here.
Schwartz. Absent. Hoffenberg.
Here.
O'Connor.
Here.
And Pace.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Great. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? Any questions, additions? Yes.
I provided some comments to the staff on some typos.
Oh, okay.
Absent that, I have no questions.
Anyone else? Okay. If no other changes, I'm sure that will be taken care of. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to be approved as noted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes. Great, okay, I see there is no public here, so we don't distract. This is a continuation of our last meeting where we were discussing PC case 252, text amendments. And they are numbers. Text amendments relating to Articles 10, 9, 12, 16 of the Grange zoning code. And if they're nice enough, staff can give us a brief discussion.
Perfect. So tonight we're going to go through all of the amendments. We're going to go through one by one like we did last time. It seemed to kind of flow a little bit better. So we'll start with one, and then we'll have all your discussion. You can ask me any questions you'd like, and then we'll make a motion and then move on to the next one. So as Greg indicated, at our last Plan Commission meeting, staff had brought some text amendments related to recreational cannabis and retail stores that exclusively or primarily sell CBD and Kratom products. Staff is also taking the advantage of the continuation to propose a couple of additional text amendments. So staff's proposing text amendments to change the zoning code related to live entertainment, accessory to eating places, and fence construction details. Additionally, staff is proposing to clarify the language in the zoning code related to the expansions of non-conforming structures in quarter sign yards and the definition of a patio. So tonight, up on the screen, I have kind of simplified some of the tables due to the size of the screen. So I do recommend following along in your packet for just the more expanded version of the tables. So our first one tonight is the one that we had continued from the previous meeting. Staff had provided some information on CBD and Kratom, specifically stores that primarily or predominantly sell these products. The Commission requested additional information on the appearance of other existing stores and then additional information on other communities' regulations. So those pictures are included in your packet of the other existing stores. Additionally, there's a table that summarizes the information that staff found related to other communities' regulations. To sum up that research, staff found that most municipalities don't have these standalone stores that predominantly sell Kratom or CBD product. Only about 2 that we researched did, which likely means they have not had to react to it yet, which is why that we're finding that most of the CBD is falling under miscellaneous retail items. At the November meeting, just to kind of summarize your previous conversations, the Commission was kind of discussing 2 camps really, kind of split between prohibiting the stores in all districts or allowing them but only in certain districts, which is why you have in front of you the zoning map. I would just wanted to be able to provide a visualization of where some of our districts are. The downtown, of course, is our C1 district. But other areas that are over by the Stone Avenue train station are actually C2 and C4. Specifically, a restaurant that was mentioned last time, Milk Bunny, is located in C2.
Milk Stop.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Thank you. We have 2 restaurants now that have milk in them, Milk Stop. So I can take any questions that you have. I can answer any questions about locations of some of our districts.
Has anyone, I know when we left last time, everyone thought they'd look more into CBD and its effects and Kratom specifically. After the month that we had, has anyone changed their original positions? I think most of us said either we'd say it wouldn't be in C1 district, but would be allowed other places, and a few of us said they don't want it at all. Has anyone moved on that?
Yeah, I haven't changed. I think it's not working for us. I'm open-minded, in a year's time, maybe take another look, but not forever. But for now, based on what I do know, which is, again, still limited, I just don't think we do.
I personally went to visit the one in Oakbrook Center because Heather shared that information with me. The center actually has a standalone store. It's one of those ones that's in the middle, kind of in a big glass enclosure. So I went there, and it was very nice, I'd have to say. It didn't offend me in any way, but I also didn't really see the great need or benefit to the Grange of having a standalone like that. And it's really extremely expensive. I was a little surprised for what they're selling, basically creams and hand lotions and stuff like that. It's really very expensive.
So I actually appreciated the photos that you had, and I think the staff report made a comment that CBD Kratom stores, I think that specific store is starting to kind of expand in the Chicagoland area. So to me, kind of to piggyback what the two prior commissioners have said, I think it's a little premature to allow it in districts. I don't really think that it should ever be in the C1, but I think there are other things that we would need to address first. Specifically, when I look at some of the signs on the buildings, I think we need to address our signage code first before we would ever open this possibility up. Because you can picture something, the store could open right next to the milk stop, and the issues that would arise. So I think signage should be addressed, and then I also think, isn't the comprehensive plan set to be revised at some point? So I would say that those things should be done first before we were to amend the code to allow this in any of the districts.
Really quick, just to address that sign piece, we do have a section in our sign code that says that it can't be misleading or drug paraphernalia isn't specifically cited, but generally what it's trying to get at is it can't be explicit and it can't be paraphernalia and things like that. So some of the ones where you see the green vegetation on it wouldn't necessarily be permitted under our code. But you were right that there are some additional pieces that go with it. So am I understanding now that the consensus has moved away from maybe allowing it in some areas to just completely prohibiting?
See, that's my issue here. I don't agree that we should prohibit this. I don't understand it. I was in Whole Foods over the weekend. You walk into Whole Foods and the first big display in the middle of Whole Foods, in the first aisle, which is all of their creams and Tylenol and everything else, is a massive stand that just says CBD right on the top. You do the same thing in Walgreens, it's the same thing. I'm a little surprised that we would take a position when people can walk into Walgreens, Whole Foods, Mariano's, and buy these products, and we're going to say to potential retailers and tax-generating stores in some of our non-core districts where there's a lot of vacancies right now, and we're going to say to these potential customers, you can't sell products for a store that is otherwise available at Walgreens, Mariano's, and Whole Foods. I think that's short-sighted. Now, I do think that we can prohibit. I had the same reaction about the signage. I did, because as much as I want to be open-minded about that we can't allow. Can't have a big marijuana leaf right on the front of the store. That I think we can address with restrictions, either by signage restrictions. I don't know whether or not we would necessarily need to do that here, or through the separate signage code provision of the zoning code. But I don't think we should take the position to fully prohibit these types of stores.
I share essentially all of the concerns we have. I'm more or less aligned with Jeff on this in terms of the fact that it's difficult to prohibit the sale of a product that's readily available otherwise. And I'm sort of the opinion, as you pointed out, in the dedicated stores, the stuff isn't cheap. And on top of that, given the rent structure of the area, it may be difficult for someone to develop a business plan that supports a standalone store from just CBD. So, you know, not to say that we're prejudging the viability of the issue, but to the extent that to select a product to prohibit would be difficult. It's not the same as a packaged goods store or a question we had before about tobacco sales and so forth. I would say outside of Central, there's opportunity for someone to say, I want to do a retail operation. Go for it. That's pretty much where I'm at.
I kind of lean, you know, to let people try. I don't think it's viable in our community. I think it probably wouldn't make it very long term. But I see nothing wrong with it. I just get concerned about a store that may look funny. That's a concern.
I think that's my concern, is that if we were to amend the code to allow it, it's hard to pull that back once you've allowed it. And I would just believe that it's premature for us to do that if we haven't set those, you know, the comprehensive plan, looking forward to the next 20 years of what we want the Grange to be. And then also the signage, which I think is very important, that it be consistent in our code and not just specifically regulating this one business, because that is a lawsuit waiting to happen. So I just think it's premature to allow, to amend it to allow in certain districts. As I said before, we could always go back next year after we've already done the preliminary steps that need to be taken and revise it to say, okay, now it is allowed in all districts but the C1, because now we have the foundation in place to make sure that the signage is appropriate and that the comprehensive plan, it meets the goals of our comprehensive plan going forward for the next 20 years.
So really quick, just again, again, the signage, they wouldn't be permitted to be able to use the hemp leaf. They wouldn't be permitted to do that because it would appear as though it was drug paraphernalia, and that's not permitted under our code. And just also just to put in kind of a time frame as well, probably the start of the update of the comprehensive plan would be in the ballpark of about a year from now, just after, you know, getting our grant feedback back and hiring a consultant, things like that too. So you're right. It's about a year and a half, somewhere in that ballpark before the preliminary portions of that start. So,
I guess, Barb, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Commissioner Egan's comment that we could be opening ourselves to a lawsuit if we restrict one product.
Well, in terms of the signage and the kind of
Signage,
signage. Right, I mean, that's content-based regulation of signs creates issues, especially under some of the recent Supreme Court decisions, where the escaping me at the moment, but
Reed versus Gilbert.
Reed, thank you. And the Reed versus Town of Gilmore, they said, the court there, Supreme Court said, that distinctions based on the content of the sign were not permissible. And so if you're saying, well, you know, a drugstore can have a sign of this size, but a CBD store can have a sign that's smaller, well, you know, what's the basis for that? Your distinction is based on content, where they're both retail uses, so the purpose is the same. So I think there is some risk there, and you know, we have to look at your code to see if there's any way to structure it.
But is that based on what we're talking about? Not necessarily content itself, but you're talking about distinguishing factors like signage, location, size, things like that. You couldn't restrict the signage similar to another store that was, say, a spa or a hair salon. You couldn't say, well, the signage for the CBD store has to be 25% smaller and located in this location as opposed to that. Wouldn't it be permissible to say you cannot have drug paraphernalia or a hemp leaf or a big bong on front mind. I mean, I just make stuff up. It's like,
But how is that? I mean, that seems like content. You're prohibiting, you're regulating the sign based on what it says.
but I also think it is, if I'm not mistaken, that's legal to do that because you can't allow, it is allowed to prohibit things that are, for instance, pornographic. You're allowed to restrict.
There are certain areas where there are restrictions, but I'm not sure whether the restriction, whether this particular use would fall within the restrictions that the state has made illegal. Where, certain kinds of pornography and obscenity are not legal.
Right.
But here we have a case where the state has made it legal.
But what about the cases of firearms? We don't permit the sale of firearms in the Grange, and, we're allowed to do that.
That's a use issue rather than a sign issue. If you say, I'm not going to allow gun stores and not going to allow, certain kinds of liquor establishments, those are zoning type rules based on the use, that's not regulating the sign up.
You and I have not disagreed, probably 5 years.
Well, no, but you bring up a good point because I actually thought of that example too, not only of the potential like a gun store, but also like a tobacco shop, right? It's not necessarily about the use as much as it is
Or a pawn shop, I wanted to go right there.
Agreed. I don't disagree that, to me, it's really trying to balance the character of the store plus the location. Pawn shop, I think, being in downtown, right in the middle, is an issue, right? I also don't personally believe that a pawn shop has any business being in anywhere in the Grange, because I just don't think that that's the right, there's nothing redeeming about a pawn shop in any area of the Grange that has something to me that draws what the plan of this entire village is. This, to me, is much closer to the other side of the fence, which is, it is a legal product. I don't think this is relating to, the product itself is not using drugs, it is not alcohol, it is not firearms, it is not, this is a legal thing where it's, I looked at all the products, I went online and looked at some of those stores, they're creams, they're shampoos, these are things that people use in their everyday life. It just happens to have that it has it's no different in my opinion, like aloe or Tylenol, or at least what I've read so far, that the medicinal characteristics of it are very similar to what is currently on the product at Walgreens, CVS. So I just, to me, I don't think it gets to that issue that I think, this to me, actually, let me rephrase it, this to me is more about perception than anything. And that's a legitimate issue we have to discuss, because we have that's a big component of what we do, is the appearance of certain things to the character and nature of this village. So I'm not trying to dismiss that. I just think that maybe if you open it and people, you give it a chance, maybe it'll change those perceptions, because I just think the perception of it seems to be false. That being said, I also agree with what you said earlier. I think this is bound to fail. I don't see how these are going to succeed. I just don't. It's too expensive. There's not enough of a market for it. It's probably years away if they can catch this. So maybe it would be successful at some point, but I just also hate to think that I hate driving by certain areas that are vacant and think, man, if we had more opportunities for other stores, and maybe it would help a little bit. And so that's been, on balance, that's why I come out on this side of it.
So let me make sure I understand. You're for it and anything but the C1, or you go anywhere?
No, I would not go in C1.
Okay, so you're, okay.
I would restrict outside of C1. And then the question would be, whether I would even potentially restrict, because I know that with Milkstop, this is obviously a growing area too, whether we would restrict C2 or C4?
So C2 is the south side of the station, so Milkstop area. C4 is north of the station on Hillgrove.
Got it. But like C3, on the Grange Road, over like where the pizza place used to be, and some of those other, some of those places are vacant. Been that way for a while. I'd love to see some stores go in there.
Is there any more information that we could gather? We all opinions at this point.
I think the real question is the suggestion to wait for refinement of the plan and/or any other constraint on display advertising and signage. Would that have any effect on our opinion, or would it in fact, shall we say, just push this along to the point where it becomes more confusing?
My concern is that I think staff gets questions and inquiries about perhaps opening the store. I think we'd like to give those people guidance.
Yeah.
And just telling them, we're not ready yet, that's not really strong guidance in my opinion. Either it's yes or no, or it's in one district as opposed to another district. I think that's helpful to applicants.
So really quick too, I just want to clarify this one piece about the signs. I think I'm being confusing. I think this is my fault. So as LaGrange has opted out of recreational marijuana, under our sign code, the provision that wouldn't allow for certain signage is if it's misleading, if it's advertising something that it's not. And since we have opted out of recreational marijuana, the hemp leaf, which is generally the signal for recreational marijuana, wouldn't be permitted under their signage. And this is something that we did consult Mark on. I apologize, Barb. But we did when we had someone come in the first time, because that was a concern, right? Since our code doesn't really address it very well, it could be construed that it might be already permitted. And so had we had something open before being able to address it at this level, we wanted to make sure that at least that piece was secure. And like I said before, we have opted out of recreational marijuana, which means that if they are going to put this hemp leaf on their store, it's misleading. They are not a recreational marijuana store. They're not a medical marijuana store. They're CBD, so they wouldn't be permitted to be able to use that.
So, Julie, I know where you're going with this, because I'm going to go the same way.
No, actually, I had a different question, so you go ahead. If you're
Well,
following.
because I'm going to follow up on a point that you made earlier, which is, I actually do agree that that's a concern, is would it make sense to get either clarification, somehow more definitive clarification, or some provision added to the signage code that expressly stated that until such time as the village were to opt into the marijuana ordinance, then no signage containing any, paraphernalia or whatever it is would be permitted, in order to ensure that the scenario that actually Commissioner Egan just raised, which I actually think is very legitimate, which would be, we permit it, now it's in the code, it's harder to unwind it. Somebody then comes and says, I want the store, and we say, well, you cannot have the signage you want, and they challenge that, and they somehow win. Are we in a position where we've opened the door here to our own detriment? Because one of the conditions I'm hearing from everybody, and I think we are all uniform here, is if for some, not putting words in anybody's mouth that are opposed to this, if somehow this were to get approved, none of us would want any signage that's even close to what's on these pages. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can ensure in the code itself that that's prohibited.
Just to clarify, is the only piece that you are concerned about and would want to regulate is the hemp leaf, or is there another piece of it that you're concerned about? Because we have certain size maximums already. We have certain types of signs that are permitted and signs that are not. That are just regulated by type of sign, not necessarily by content.
It's going to be hard to define because some of this it, and then but maybe someone else doesn't know it. You can't. That's why when we rewrote the sign regulations way back, I don't know how many years ago, we made them much more interpretive because it was so rigid before that no one could do anything basically. So that we actually opened it up a few years ago more to like we kind of review a sign by sign. And so what I'm afraid is if you try to define it again, you're back to that case where every sign is 12 inches wide by this with blue letters.
Well, I'm not worried about the size of the.
I do it, but you know what I'm talking about.
But I mean, to your point, it's what the famous U.S. Supreme Court quote says: "Just go about more higher, you know when you see it." And this is the case here too. It's with this type of signage. It's like I guess I could try, but I'm not sure. I don't think I would be able to cover everything. I don't think anybody would. It's because there's whether you try to just use some type of generic terminology like paraphernalia or anything relating to use, recreational use of marijuana, is that too prohibitive?
Well, and frankly, from the photos, it looks like the name of the store is CBD Kratom. Is that the name of the store?
Correct. That's one of the more
I mean, come on,
Handy.
this is Bob's.
Bob's.
I mean, just a CBD.
So it truly is the name as well as the graphic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just say one last thing, and that is, this is new, and it's, there's a lot of different opinions, but I think, because it's new, we've got a really good community. There's the comprehensive plan, which is always really well done. And you get everyone, you get a lot more people than just the five of us debating it, and I think that's where this belongs.
A few years ago, didn't we discuss a medical marijuana dispensary on the Grange Road, South 47th Street? Wasn't that under consideration? We had an applicant who wanted to open a dispensary. I swear, maybe I'm dreaming it, but anyway, I think, and it was rejected. It might have actually passed through the plan commission and then rejected by the board, I think. So, and obviously, the marijuana issue's already been resolved, but I think it kind of follows maybe the discussion from that would be relevant.
If the planning, or the comprehensive plan view is that, hey, this is great, let's have it. Let's have it. I'm not going to be, complaining.
Would something like this be in front of the new comprehensive plan analysis?
It can be. So generally, the comprehensive plan is going to do work to determine, existing conditions, things of that nature. It will look at the market, around what's, what in the Chicago suburb area is expanding, what is doing well, what seems to be developing, things like that. So it definitely could be, if it is high enough on the radar that, it could be a potential retailer.
There's typically 20 people, 20 residents that get together. Is that the number?
No, it's much bigger than that. It will, the comprehensive plan will be generally facilitated at your level before, just like this. It will be a very similar process where sections are brought to you at different meetings, you review them, you make comments on them and things like that. Throughout that process, there is pieces when all of LaGrange is invited to come and provide comment, generally during the existing conditions research phase, and then depending on how, in what sections and increments that we do bring these things to you for review, they'll be providing comment at that time too. So it really is all of LaGrange that we are looking to have involved in the comprehensive plan.
The research on the other villages that you did, where it says not addressed specifically, but it seems to not be necessarily prohibited by the kind of general or retail. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit further? Because I want to understand the distinction here, which is, obviously there's a lot of different options of what to do here, whether or not it's to permit it, to prohibit it, to stay silent. I want to understand the distinctions here if we can.
So, yes, honestly, what really synthesized out of that research for us was that a lot of places don't have these standalone. They have the Walgreens, they have the Mariano's, they have it in other stores that sell other products, and it's a small component of those other stores. There are really not a lot of our peers that have these standalone stores that predominantly sell the CBD and Kratom, which means they really haven't had to react to it. Not really a peer community, but a neighbor. I did reach out to Countryside and chat with them, and they said that their code does not address it at this moment, and that they do have it in the vitamin shop, and they know in a couple of other stores, but they don't have a standalone and have not had to address it yet. Honestly, that really is the synthesis of the research, is that not a whole lot of people have had to go one way or the other on it.
So right now, if one of these companies were called, I know you've got these inquiries, would they be allowed under the current code to do this?
It would be. There would be certain components that wouldn't be, specifically the vaping. Additionally, food products, as the state rules that they are not a permitted food additive. But somebody who wanted to bring the creams and the lotions and things like that in, they would be technically permitted under the code right now, as it's silent and could be construed as just miscellaneous retail, which is permitted.
So what was told to the couple of people that called so far?
Well, when they heard about the edible piece and the vaping piece, they said that they wanted to reassess the business plan and then reach back out to us. I'm not aware that they have yet. That's a relatively bigger component of some of these stores. Not all of them, but some of them.
Is the edible piece, is that a state problem?
Yeah, the state does not currently allow them as, they're not considered a permitted food additive right now.
Because I did notice that at the store that I visited that they said they used to have edibles, but they had to get rid of them.
Again, that's not to say that other villages and other municipalities have not allowed them in, but when we contacted the state ourselves, and our health inspector did so, the state indicated that it was not a permitted food additive.
So that's still within the less than 3% component, right?
Correct.
Somebody couldn't do that and skirt around the whole January 1 legal, marijuana being legal by doing it through these type of CBD stores, right?
They wouldn't, I mean, there is CBD and then there is recreational marijuana. They are different products. I mean, there could be a store that has CBD and that also sells marijuana, but no, I mean, if, let's just hypothetically say in Smithtown, we'll omit LaGrange's name, it was prohibited and somebody wanted to bring in a CBD store to Smithtown, but then start selling recreational marijuana, it is not a permitted commercial business in Smithtown, so it would not be permitted, no.
Right, and that's the okay, just curious.
You know, I think at this point, we don't really have a consensus at this point. I don't think we know everything we want. It seems like waiting, perhaps, is our best option at this point, unless anyone has a burning desire to get this going. I'm also a little uncomfortable because there's 5 of us here, and we're missing 2 components, which I think their input would help, or certainly sway the vote one way or the other.
But as I understand it, these facilities are currently permissible.
Correct.
I'd like to.
You'd like to vote? Okay.
Just, if I may, just so everybody understands that to make a positive recommendation, you need to have 4 concurrent votes. And I don't think you got 4 votes either way on this right now, based on my head count, based on your commentary.
I'm the new guy, so.
I know the procedural wrinkles.
Yeah, hope not too
Well,
bad.
my problem is if we continue this, then if we pick this up again next month or something, I'm not sure we're any further along.
Yeah,
But I think we need to decide one way or the other, as Glenn pointed out. It's permissible right now, even in C1. So someone could show up and open a store right next to the Great Guy Fix, because we haven't actually made a decision on this. So I think it is something that we need to decide whether we're going to allow it in certain districts, or if we're going to prohibit it in its entirety until we revise the comprehensive plan and the signage, and then revisit it to open it up to the districts.
What would be the process from start to finish to somebody to submit an application to open the store?
So right now, if they were to submit an application, they would submit both a business license and a certificate of occupancy request. They would be required to provide as part of their business licensing paperwork inventory information and information on the existing business and other businesses they have and things of that nature. They would also be required to provide a floor plan for their certificate of occupancy application information. If all of their information was both correct for both the business license and the certificate of occupancy application, they would get an inspection for life safety items in the store, so that's fire and building. And then if they passed that inspection and everything else was in line, they would be issued a license. A signage permit would be separate from that. They could submit a sign permit for their store and then have to fall under our current regulations for size and location.
Do you want to put in the stay in the application?
That would be a moratorium of permits, which would essentially require its own zoning area.
I had to ask.
I liked it though, Jeff.
Trying to be
So
creative.
that was a nice thought, but that's been looking at it a few times.
Also, if we want a vote, we would need someone to propose a motion. And at this point, the motion could go either way, as demonstrated in the work here. You have one that regulates by a district, as we define, probably not C1. And the other option is to prohibit all districts. And you can make a different motion if you want, but someone would have to propose something so we can discuss, vote, move on. I'm open to a motion at this point.
All right, I'll make a motion. I move that we adopt Table 2, amendment option 2 to prohibit in all districts until such time as the comprehensive plan has addressed this issue and possibly even the marijuana issue as well, and other types of stores that we might want to welcome into the Grange. And our signage code has been revised, which I've been thinking about for years.
I second the motion from Commissioner Egan.
That motion has been moved and seconded. There's opportunity for discussion on the open motion.
None of this would prohibit amendment of the permission
Correct.
to other districts or universal in the future following the amendments, if you will, to the comprehensive plan, which may or may not have influence on this.
And an applicant could come in and say, well, I think I've got a great site and I got a great case for why it should be allowed here, and come in and ask you to amend to a text amendment, amend the code, because they're making a great case. That's always sort of possible.
Yeah. That's fair.
It offers leverage on signage.
That is also true.
Duh.
Any other discussion? Been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Egan.
Aye.
O'Connor.
Aye.
Wenting.
I mean,
Hoffenberg.
Nope.
Pace.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Yeah, motion passes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, so
As we
one down.
move on to the live entertainment and accessory to eating places. I'd love to hear this one.
Yeah.
Right? This is the one.
well, good. I'm glad you're excited. All right. I like an excited planning commission. Thank you, folks. All right. So as Greg already set me up, the staff is looking to make some changes to the live entertainment accessory to eating places section of the code. So right now under the code, any live entertainment either requires a special use, which would be reviewed by this commission and then approved by the village board, or they are permitted to have a temporary special use permit, which only allows them 8 events per year, which is reviewed and approved by the village manager. Both of those applications do require the applicant to provide information on security, noise, number of patrons, parking, things of this nature. However, we are seeing a pretty big growth in the popularity among restaurants to have live entertainment. Additionally, there are a number of restaurants that are actually already offering live entertainment, but they haven't actually obtained a special use or the special use permit or the temporary special use permit. In addition, the village has received new inquiries related to live entertainment. So in light of these factors, staff reviewed 13 other municipalities' requirements related to this live entertainment. 8 of the 13 have mixed-use downtowns similar to us. And the most common approach was to allow it as a right inside of eating places, but not outside. So the proposed text amendments that's in your packet would establish live entertainment as a right, which is consistent with other communities. Additionally, it's also consistent with a market assessment that we did in 2017, which looked at our downtown and strengths and weaknesses of it. So staff is proposing in the text amendments you see in your packet to allow, again, indoor as of right, but outdoor live entertainment would still require either a special use permit or a temporary special use permit. In addition to that, staff is also proposing to reduce the number of temporary use permits to 4 instead of the 8 that was previously permitted, as the 8 would generally have been a mix of maybe indoor and outdoor. And this would be kind of a happy medium in between those to ensure that we're not having too many outdoor events that could potentially propose negative externalities to the neighbors.
Okay, let's open up for questions for the staff.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Do you believe that the current buildings that these restaurants are located in, that they have sufficient noise control for the neighbors and maybe tenants that live above, things of that nature? Or they already have the noise separation?
That's a fantastic question. So first off, the reason that we discovered that there were these restaurants already allowing it was actually through staff noticing it. We have not actually received any noise complaints related to the ones that are already doing it. There are businesses that do incorporate noise reduction in their build-out. Staff has already started to implement a recommendation sheet for folks in general. There are some materials out there from a building code standpoint that are less than suitable for some of these areas. So we actually have already started implementing some of that pieces. So that is a good question. And yes, some of these places, depending on how their build out goes, may need to incorporate some of those pieces, and we're ready to assist by providing some suitable materials for them.
And then the other question I had was the 25%, the area dedicated, does that mean the stage, or does that mean, can you explain to what the 25% of the principal building dedicated to the live entertainment is?
Absolutely. So the 25%, some of these places, it really will depend on a bit of the design. Some of these places just have a stage that's kind of intermixed with their general eating tables. Then yes, it would really be the stage, and then, you know, any mechanical equipment to go with that. If they have an area that maybe is just stage and seating just specifically for that, that also would be regulated to only 25%.
Okay, so because I'm picturing that place and I don't know what town it's in, Wires, it's called. It's almost like a concert hall. Is the 25%, the idea is that you couldn't have something like that where it wasn't primarily eating, but it was more of a concert.
Correct. And additionally, too, our code specifically says that it's only permitted accessory to an eating place, which is why the 25% is also in there, just another catch to be very clear as to what accessory means.
How does this affect the new restaurant, The Elm, which I understand their upstairs, outside is made for entertainment?
So I think you're referring to the upstairs. I forget what he's calling it, but it's the outdoor eating area. No, he means the Elm where the Magic Walk used to be.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So they are one of the recent requests that we received. You are correct that they are interested in having some live entertainment. I can tell you from reviewing their original preliminary building plans that the area they were proposing was an indoor area for the live entertainment. That's not to say that they may not have some sort of ambiance music, recorded music up there. But from my understanding, it was an indoor location where their stage was specifically going to go. As you see in your packets, though, too, in conjunction and on a parallel path with these proposed text amendments, the village board is also reviewing our noise control standards as well. Not to burden you with it, but we did do some research into it, and there is some room for improvement or some change. So that is also in conjunction going with this as well. The noise control standards are in the municipal code, not the zoning code, which is not technically under your purview. But we wanted you to be aware of that since it does impact how you will view this.
And how would it affect, many of the restaurants now are starting to put the garage door type from windows in, or the Carmel Bistro over there, it's pretty much all garage door opening. If they had someone playing guitar in there in the summer, affected, not affected?
So the noise control ordinance would capture a lot of that. Under our current noise ordinance, you might remember from when we had the children's indoor recreational facility. Right now, we have a relatively low decibel maximum. So if, for example, Comma had their windows open and it was audible outside, if they do not exceed that decimal, then they would be permitted to do so.
So, do we know how many current restaurants also have residences on top?
Well, also residents on top.
Yes.
That you're going to ask who was doing it without a permit.
No, because I would never.
7.
We're not enforcing the code against anybody.
No, it's a fair question though. I do not on me have a count of how many buildings are, but I will say the predominant feature is that there usually is on the Grange Road, there is residence above. On some of the side streets, you're not seeing quite as much of that, but on the Grange Road, you are seeing more of the mixed use. That's not to say that there aren't on some of the side streets, but it's more predominant on LaGrange Road. But for example, Comma, if we continue to use those, and maybe we'll scrub that from the minutes that we use theirs as the example, they do actually have quite a bit of residential above them, and we haven't received any complaints. Nixon's is another one, although they don't have residential directly above, they do have it adjacent, and they haven't received any complaints. Luca's is another one that also has live entertainment. They do, yeah. Yeah,
Who does?
Luca's. Yeah. It's not all the time.
Interesting.
Honestly, I feel like this list of 7, you might know more, to be totally honest with you. I had to look some of them up. But you're right. There are some that have mixed use. Again, there are some that are already mixed use that are already doing it without a permit, and we haven't received any complaints. If we did allow it inside and there were complaints, it would be really a landlord issue or a condo association issue to really enforce. Because those are going to be the people that are most affected.
So you found that in any of the codes you looked at from our neighboring municipalities, there's a distinction between, say, low noise levels, time restrictions, and anything else on buildings where there is residential up top versus buildings that they're not?
Not that are much different from our current noise control, actually. Most places we're seeing the noise kind of changes over on weekdays around 10 p.m. and then on the weekends around 11. Our code uses 10 currently. So we're relatively on par with the times. Decimals we're far below though.
Okay. Because I also know that when you have different issues in terms of construction, you have to put a restaurant below or a residence is above a restaurant. So I'm not as concerned about it because there's going to be a little bit more of a buffer when they're built in the building. I want to touch on, because I wrote this down as a note earlier, the open area issue as well, and whether or not we need to address that too. Because right when I was reading this, I was thinking Almers, I'm thinking the new place, I'm thinking 14, 16. How do we address what I see as a potential loophole, or do we need to address it? The fact that if you have places with open garden areas, open rooftops, do they fall under the purview of this? Because this talks about live entertainment within the principal building area. So are we talking about the internal structure, or would that be considered the building area if you're, say, have a band that's playing on the rooftop, but it's not inside, right? It's outside.
So the way that
It's a polished tent.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean,
So really quick, that is a special event, and they would still need to get a permit for that. But yes, building in our code is defined as inside of the primary structure. So if the Elm was going to have it on their rooftop, they would either need to get a special use, or they would need to do the temporary special use route.
Because the language in the proposed amendment says it's accessory to permitted eating places when located outside of the principal building, so a rooftop would be outside.
right. So I don't want to. What I also don't want to do is, first of all, let me start by saying I love this. I think this is great. I think this is going to just promote even more people flocking to the downtown area. I see this in a lot of other areas. I was in Naperville about a month ago, and they have a place like this, and it is phenomenal. There are so many people that went to this place because they had a band that was playing, and it was like in a restaurant, and they had a little area, and the band was playing. It was phenomenal. So I would love to make sure that we're also not being overly restrictive. Because we're also talking about reducing the outdoor from 8 to 4. So if now we're doing 8 to 4, are we hurting ourselves if some of these other places that are building these great, beautiful rooftop areas that we want to have somebody playing live music during the summer? That's going to be a huge draw. I would hate to restrict them. So thought we could talk about that a little bit more as well. So
I see the first part where we talk about 25% of the building, we're allowing it to happen now as it is, right? So this is just giving them permission, like, okay, the code says you can play inside your building. Is that how we look at it? Right.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we're trying to, we're not trying to penalize these folks. We're looking to assist them. I mean, it's a significant number of our downtown restaurants.
So let's drill down on the outside.
right.
Really, to me, I love it too. And 4 seems silly.
I agree.
Like 4 a week seems appropriate. I mean,
I would say once a week in the summer, I don't think that's bad. If you have, Friday nights, whatever, you have your live music.
I was thinking more restrictive. What if a place got known to have this type of draw and said every Friday night, Saturday night, we have, even if it's just, I hate to say it, because of course the worst case scenario that people are going to think of, this loud, heavy metal music. No. What if it's 2 people playing the acoustic guitar?
it's all about decibels. No, I'm not kidding.
It's right.
It really is all about decibels.
Absolutely.
As long as
Okay.
they stay within the noise restrictions.
I agree. So I think there's got to be some way we can.
So, I guess, so Julie said that she would be okay with it being maybe like every Friday night. I don't know through another mechanism other than maybe the special use or the temporary special use how we would do that. Just because, it seems relatively specific. And say, for example, somebody isn't open. I know this sounds silly, but say for some, we say that it's permitted every Friday between the months of this and this. But what if somebody isn't open on a Friday and wants to say, well, I want it on Thursday then because I'm not open on Friday? I mean, they would still be permitted to do outdoor. They would just have to come through the special use process and just provide some additional information that they're not going to be, overburdening their neighbors or things of that nature. Yes, we'll be updating the noise control ordinance to modernize it and be more fitting with some more current practices, but that still doesn't necessarily prohibit or prevent negative externalities from still being imparted on the neighbors. So the special use process would allow you to just review each one and make sure that there are enough conditions on it that it wouldn't negatively impact anyone.
And you say each one, could somebody come to you for a special use permit to say, I want to have somebody playing every Friday and Saturday night for the months of May through October?
So that could be someone's special use application, yes.
Does that have to be a special use presented to the planning commission, or can that be approved by the village manager based on the standards that were laid out here?
Well, the way that it's written here is that if they would want it, let's just say every Friday night for an entire year, so more than the 8 times, they would, yes, need to come before you and then get approved by the village board. If they just wanted to do 8 of these events a year or 4, whatever number you'd like to land on, then it would just be a review and approval by the village manager.
That seems to be the escape clause. It's either that or the other refuge of scoundrels, which would be F.
Which is
On any single day, you can't do it for more than 4 hours.
Yes.
And then eliminate the numerous other kind of restrictions. But as long as they can come in and define the special use, our concern was that there would be a restaurant that wanted to establish a summertime program. And, the ability to go before the village and say, I'd like this program, here is the structure of it. And
That's a better way to
I think that would work better than trying to
come here and get
constrain it by numbers.
so our idea is mainly letting the village manager set the individual's special uses.
So just eliminate it as a special use and just put it under temporary special use with a number not to exceed, or just in general?
I don't know what number to not exceed there is.
Well, there's, as you pointed out, if it's odds and ends, does it make sense to have two different mechanisms to approve the use? Or is the only difference the number? If it's only the number that's different, let's use the same approval mechanism.
Well, just a quick plug. Like Palmer's, for example, that does require a temporary special use. If we don't limit the number of those, it means that the village manager could approve one every single day, maybe at the same, level as Palmer's, for every single restaurant in town. Does that seem fitting, or would there be would it just be just during the summer months, or?
Well, when you say every restaurant, they would have to have the space to be able to do it. And not every restaurant in town is going to have space outdoors to do that, right?
Well, I'm just providing an extreme example.
You're talking like a big shindig, the St. Patty's Day thing.
Right. I mean, it's an extreme example, but if there aren't pieces to restrict it, that could be what's allowed, because technically that's what Palmer's receives under that temporary special use for their St. Patty's Day.
Well, but it would seem that there already are those restrictions in here, that they have to present all of this information to the village manager. Frankly, I would see it as a first come, first serve. So if you have, 10 applications for a St. Patrick's Day celebration, the first person in there that says, somebody beats Palmer's, well, maybe Palmer's is out of luck if there's not going to be sufficient parking and there's going to be all of these things that need to be addressed. The village manager can say, well, you know what, I already have an application for that that's right across the street from you, so I'm going to deny yours, at which point, what will break loose. But I think it's already in there with some guidance to the village manager, although you actually work with the village manager, so maybe you could give us a little insight as to whether or not she would want to take on those decisions.
Well, I think that the current process, so we do already, for any live entertainment, it's a special use, right? If they want to do it more than 8 times a year. So that process was put in place in 2015, actually, when a couple of you were on the commission. It seemed like at that time that was the purview, that you wanted to see each individual one come in because no 2 restaurants in downtown are the same. And so, I think that process has been in place for a while. Yes, people have not been availing themselves of it because they haven't really been getting complaints. But I think your instincts in 2015 were relatively right, that if it's going to be a more reoccurring thing, it's going to be something that generates noise, it could be something outdoors. These negative externalities maybe need to be looked at each individual time because they're outside, they can be louder, they're not really contained, they're not fully in their building. I don't necessarily, staff wrote it this way, not necessarily just to take advantage of existing language, but mostly because we are seeing that other municipalities do say inside is great and as of right, but there are still restrictions on outside because outside has the highest potential to have negative externalities on your neighbors. I haven't seen a whole lot of municipalities that have just carte blanche allowed the outdoor.
And I guess that's not what we're suggesting. I think we're kind of handing the responsibility over to the village manager.
May I ask a question for your consideration? The occasional outdoor event, you were worried about impact about who's living nearby and might be affected. Do you feel differently about the occasional event and the impact on the neighbors versus a process that allows a venue to go to multiple times a week without an opportunity for adjacent neighbor input? The one benefit of going through you and the village board, or somebody who says, well, 3 times a week from Memorial Day to Oktoberfest, I want to do this. I want to be there 3 times a week. Are there people nearby who would kind of like to know what, somebody's doing? And if it's just the village manager, she has no way to get that input about, the impact, the larger impact of a very extended schedule. That's just one factor to balance in all of this is how, the advantage of you guys is you hear all those people if they leave, where she won't necessarily have a way to get that. So, just put that in your mixed master with everything else.
I'd just like us to be flexible, I'd like us to be more flexible than we are now with this issue.
Okay, so let's just dive into this. Let's a little bit on that. So this is Chicago, so odds are the only real good quality open door months are going to be June, July, August, right? Maybe September now, given global change, global warming. So climate change has caused September to be open, and maybe not so much June, especially this year. So we're talking 3, maybe 4 months. Once a week is somewhere between 12 and 16. Right? If we were to expand this to say 12 or 16, you at least give some of these places flexibility to do once a week. That gives enough flexibility to allow these places to do once a weekend without having to go through the hoops. If they want to go more than that, maybe we should. Maybe we should make them come for more formal special use. If they want to do 3 times a week, maybe we should. Make sure the residents in the area.
It's reasonable, that's very reasonable.
So what you're saying, once a week, but you still want to limit that to like Friday and Saturday?
I think so. I think that's reasonable. I mean, because I think people who live close enough to the downtown area in the middle of the summer on the weekends have to just expect, look, they move there, they know. That's eyes wide open kind of situation. Weekends in the summer, there's a lot of people in the downtown area that go and hang out late. Like a lot of kids, movies. That's just part of living in the downtown area. So if there's also live music, I think that's just going to be, I mean, I hate to say it, but it would take a lot for someone in the public to come here and speak in front of us and me to be swayed by them saying, I live in the downtown area and I don't like the fact there's music at 10 o'clock at night, on a Saturday night. My response would be, what's that difference than that with all the kids running around and screaming and walking out of the movie theater and one of the 17 yogurt spots we have? And so I think that is probably, I think that's a reasonable solution. So, once a week on Friday and Saturday nights, we're going to have those more months. It's just like
So if I'm looking for a number of, trying to get quantity here, Heather, how many restaurants really would be able to partake? I mean, I go back to anything on the Grange Road that is sidewalk. I mean, the Wild Monk. They don't really have it on site, so they could do it, could they?
They are doing, well, if they had a sidewalk cafe, I mean, the sidewalk there is at least 10 feet, if not wider, to the actual building. Only 5 feet is required for the walkway. So in theory, if they had enough space, they could have some chairs outside. Not necessarily to say that the guitar player would be located outside, but they would have their windows open to be able to accommodate the noise to flow out into the street.
So any of the ones on the Grange Road that currently have tables, basically, the west side.
Well, right now, the way that they're doing it is that they have the garage doors and that we haven't really had amplified, so I think that's part of the reason we haven't had as many complaints, but it's the windows are open, the player is probably inside, not very far from those windows, and the music is wafting in and out. If you're curious who's currently offering live entertainment, this isn't necessarily outdoors, but just to kind of give you an idea on how many impacts it could be moving outdoors, we've already said 1416 Nixon's, Wild Monk, Luca's, Al's Char House, and Santiago's. It's just a handful of them. Like I said, you guys might have maybe a slightly longer list than I do, or some to add to it. So there are a number of restaurants that may take advantage of the outdoor piece. Most of our restaurants that are on the Grange Road have sidewalk cafes, but there are other ones that do have them. Tippy Thai has one. Fireside has one. Well, yeah, sorry. Somebody might go back in there and open one up, though. Blueberry Hill, they technically could have one on their side. It doesn't logistically work for them, but they could. But there are areas that are not on the Grange Road that could, in theory, have outdoor cafes that could take advantage of this outdoor if we'd like. Blackberry Market, for sure.
It's like every restaurant, basically, in the Grange.
So what I kind of just jotted down while you guys were chatting was that maybe we'd change D. So if you follow along on page 5 in your packet, We could change D from 4 to 16, which is roughly 2 times a week for the 4 months. And then we could change F, Glenn's current favorite piece, to also say something along the lines of, or be permitted more than once per week during the months of June to September. Or somehow incorporate that piece into the number. Either way, we could have some piece like that, if that's
Memorial Day.
to September. Oh, Memorial Day. So, I mean, if you'd like to extend it to May, maybe it's. Is it?
Say Memorial Day and Labor Day.
Yeah, those are 2 good official days, yeah.
Or you could say Memorial Day and September 30th, or, depends on what you need for weather.
Although this past spring was very wet. Other springs have been nice and mild, just for the record. But you were right. This one was pretty wet.
Saturdays, right?
Yeah, because we got to the end of September, it was still 70 degrees outside.
So let me just make sure I'm trying to reconcile what you just said, having D and a half. Do we have
I guess I'm opening up to the question, do we have concerns that people would do this more than once or twice a week? But if they did, they'd still be limited by the 16.
Well, if we only change the 16 and don't incorporate the additional language I'm proposing in F, could go in D, about the number of times per week, then yes, if we just have a number 16, somebody could just do it 16 days in a row and then top out at their number.
Well, the village manager could say, no, I'm not going to give you 16 days in a row, but I'll give you a Wednesday through Saturday because it's your 50th anniversary party or something.
I thought we were going to stick with the Friday, Saturday.
Well, I guess that's why I was
So-
thinking that through also on the Friday, Saturday, but what about?
So maybe it's permitted-
St. Patrick's, no, I mean, that's March, but so, you know.
Memorial Day, Sunday night, somebody might want to do it.
Yeah, right. Or Labor Day.
Yeah.
So maybe be permitted to no more than once per week, limited only Friday through Sunday?
Or
May to June, or May, excuse me, I'm so sorry, May to September.
national holidays.
I like that idea. Yeah.
Or national
Friday,
holidays.
Saturday, yeah, national holidays. I like that.
Well, should we say Sunday?
Sunday night is not. I mean, most people are like, hey, it's Sunday night.
Even if it was, I would say Thursday.
Yeah.
Or Saturday.
Well, that's a holiday.
Right, that would be,
I would, yeah.
Thursday night is a big night.
And they still have to submit their plan to the village manager.
Correct,
for
yes.
approval,
So to be permitted no more than one time per week, limited Thursday to Sunday and national holidays, May through September.
Well, Thursday through Saturday.
I'm sorry, I missed that. We're striking out the Sunday. Okay.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and any national holiday or national holiday weekend.
And then
National holiday weekend. That's good. Because then the Sunday includes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
okay, and then May through September. That.
Well, I think we should go beyond Labor Day.
Oh, yeah.
So really quick, sidewalk cafes, which we currently have in place and allow, if I remember correctly, that is April to November. Just to throw out. Just to throw that out there, just so you.
Nah, I'd rather limit it. I'd rather, it's like a summer thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to see it in April.
Right.
Nothing lonelier than seeing a guitar player out there by himself.
There's a reason the farmer's market stops before November. I mean, nobody really wants to be outside. Although being from the Twin Cities, it is not as cold here.
Oh,
The village is against struggling musicians.
So I'm sorry. So are we May through September, May through October, April through September?
I'd say Memorial Day through September 30th.
The weekend of Memorial Day. Yeah, Memorial Day weekend, so you get the Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, that would be covered by the national holiday weekend. So
Oh,
Memorial Day
Yeah.
through Sept 30th, correct?
Yes.
I would say no permit needed on St. Patrick's Day.
No, let's not do that. No. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not in favor of that. Don't take that down, but seriously. Okay.
Let's get this.
So, and 16, we've landed on the 16 or
I like 60.
16? Okay.
Yeah, that feels good. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not, please take your time, but when you do make your motion, you can just say as discussed. And that way we don't have to list every single piece.
So are you changing F?
Yeah,
how
I
would
think
we-
currently, as discussed, making changes to D and F of,
I'm not sure you-
no, just say as discussed.
I don't think you need changes to F. I think all the day stuff should probably be in D.
We can keep it in D, that's good.
So you're saying strike F?
No, leave F alone.
No, leave F.
Okay.
Yeah, just move where I was suggesting the no more than once per week, limited to Thursday to Saturday and national holiday weekends, Memorial Day through September 30th would be in D. But for the motion purposes, you can just say as discussed. I think we're all on the same,
All right.
relatively
So
same
we
page.
breeze through the letters if there's anything that's objectionable. No letters.
No more than once a week?
So, not to be permitted more than once per week, limited Thursday to Saturday and national holiday weekends from Memorial Day to September 30th.
Okay.
What's the latest that any place in downtown C1 can be open at night?
I am so sorry. I don't know that off the top of my head. If I remember correctly, there are some limitations on the liquor license, but the actual operating business hours I don't believe are specified for just general restaurants. Unfortunately, our municipal code is not digital.
The only thing I was looking at was the 12 a.m. What's
The
that?
liquor license is
It's
probably gonna make it whatever they want.
Probably, yeah, more than the operation.
It doesn't really matter in my opinion, because now that I'm thinking about it, it really makes more difference about the people that goes down at some point you gotta shut them off so people can sleep. You gotta cut their noise off, so I guess that doesn't matter.
Takes an hour to get through.
That's true.
Well, and LaGrange does not permit, for the lack of a better term, bars. In LaGrange, to obtain a liquor license, you need to prove that you are going to have 6% of your revenue from food sales.
6 or 6.
6D, and only 40%, and only 40% is from the sale of alcohol. So extending it past that midnight period, I'm not really sure who's going to be eating dinner, and that starts to kind of wade into a different section of the liquor code that may not be.
That also gets you into the question of if you go past midnight, do you use up 2 of your days instead of just 1?
That is a good question. Or
Oh, we're stopping it at midnight, right? You're stopping at midnight, so, okay. Great. Okay, so,
any other pieces that folks are looking to change on that?
so we're looking for, first part, which is the 25%, they can do whatever they want, basically. Then it becomes special temporary use, is what you want to call it, or what we call it, the outdoor live entertainment. Just how does the first part, where it says special uses retail trade, and then the outdoor live entertainment, do we still need the special uses retail trade? It's that, and then you add on the
So you would still need that piece, because if somebody wanted more than the 16 dates, you would still want them to have an avenue to be able to go through the special use process.
Yeah, or if it's outside the window for the outdoor, if they want to do it at the holidays or something.
And that's your
Thanksgiving,
special use.
Christmas,
Okay.
whatever, then they would come.
There's no more discussion. Would someone like to make a motion to act on this?
I move to approve as discussed.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we want roll call?
Oh, yeah, sorry, can we get a roll call?
I'm going to do a roll call, okay?
Yeah, sorry. O'Connor,
Aye.
Hoffenberg,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
Wenting,
Aye.
Pace.
Aye.
Motion approved.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Bring on summer. Okay, give me the time, I have at least another one. Who wants to talk about
It's only 8:45, folks. And we're on to the ones that might be just a little less intense.
This one's the most exciting one.
I disagree. I think that corner, side corner lot thing is, yours?
Actually, we're on fences now.
I know where fences.
Okay.
Let's go fences.
All right. All right. So our next one is fence construction details. So prior to 2018, the village required a permit to install a fence or replace a fence, but we did not require inspections. Since fences can be located on the property line, they can often be subject of concern between neighbors. So in 2018, the village started requiring two inspections for fence construction. The first one is a post hole, which is where they dig the posts. We make sure they're located in the right areas and they're the right depth. And the second one is after it's fully constructed. So after implementing these inspections, staff discovered that approximately half of the permitted fences were failing inspections because they were too tall. Per the zoning code, fences are limited to a maximum height of 6 feet, and that's measured from grade to the tallest point of the fence. So that includes any decorative tops that you have on them. Fence panels are generally manufactured in standard heights. 6 foot is a standard panel height. But the way that the code is currently written, it doesn't really account for, again, these decorative caps, or if these fences have to be elevated above the ground, which is generally done specifically for wood fences, but it can also happen with other fences if there are tree roots or changes in grade and things of that nature. So to address these fence requirements issues, staff is proposing to incorporate this detail into the code to more specifically indicate that there is room for the panel to vary off the ground to accommodate grade or those tree roots or et cetera, and have these decorative posts. So we would keep that the panel would stay at 6 feet, but the overall height of it would not exceed 6 feet 6 inches. Staff looked at a number of neighboring municipalities, which is located in your packet as well, the summary of that. Additionally, too, staff went out and surveyed of the open permits currently, about 54 fences. And of those, what we were finding is that the 6 feet 6 inches would generally accommodate most of the fences that are out there, and not cause too many issues with constructed fences.
Discussions?
It's at every point of grade, right? The analysis meeting, so if you have a sloped yard, I just want to make sure I understood that. So
It is from grade, yep.
at any point of measurement, so it's not like a uniform
Right.
6 up top average of the, because my bad was, right, I sloped down.
So generally what you're seeing is the fence companies want to keep your panels in line. So you're seeing that they're generally, if you have a higher point on yours, they're lifting the panel off the ground, which is why we didn't specify that it had to be so many feet or inches or et cetera on the bottom,
Right.
or on the top either, to be able to account for that. So what you're kind of seeing sometimes, and it's Grange, so we don't have too much topography, but we do have a bit, that you're seeing that the area underneath it can generally get a little bit taller depending on where you start that slope.
Do we have a list of approved fencing companies that must be used?
We don't limit who can install. They do need to be registered with the village, but we cannot limit a specific company if they're in good standing and registered.
Questions for staff? None, so I'd like to.
Just really quick, so this is for the residential piece, to make sure that all of our standards are in line now. Fences in commercial districts are permitted to have a height of 6 feet that from combustible materials, so wood and things like that. But we do have non-combustible fences that are currently permitted to be 8 feet. So again, we're just trying to standardize this diagram to be able to allow for both to have the 6-inch flexibility.
That's not residential. You said that's non-residential?
Non-residential, non-combustible fences. So your aluminums and your wrought irons.
I don't see anything there for barbed wire and broken glass.
So we don't allow, we do have some prohibited materials earlier in the code. This is just to address height.
Just checking.
So if anyone would like to move as stated in table 4, I think we've had disagreements with the stated in table 4.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Egan.
Aye.
Wentink.
Aye.
Hoffenberg.
Aye.
O'Connor.
Aye.
Pace.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Move on.
All right, now the one that everyone's excited about
All right.
is the expansions of non-conforming structures and side yards. In 2015, the commission at that time reviewed horizontal expansions of non-conforming structures of the zoning code. So based on village records, the intent of the 2015 amendment was to codify the village's existing interpretation of the non-conformities chapter with the goal of reducing confusion for residents, design professionals, when interpreting the non-conforming regulations. So under the current code, which was changed in 2015, we have, and I apologize for my diagrams, I am not an artist.
That was really helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I do apologize, though. Nobody's house looks like this. So anyways, if we take an example house, the black hatched areas, there we go, indicate just required yards, and the blue indicates the house. So under the current code, the house that is non-conforming with respect to the rear and interior side yard is permitted to continue along those lines and put in an addition. Under the existing code, they're not permitted to do so. And again, this is an exterior wall, as it's indicated in your staff report. Not permitted to go into the corner side yard or into the front yard. But again, based on the intent of the 2015 code, it appears that they were codifying the existing requirements, which would have allowed for expansions in this corner side yard. So staff is just looking to clarify that for folks so that they are permitted to, again, increase into the interior side yard and the rear and also into the corner side yard. Staff did review all of the permits for non-conforming corner side yard addition expansions since 2003 and did find that was the interpreted and implemented policy.
This would still be subject to lot coverage.
Correct. Yep. Lot coverage, building coverage, correct.
Alterations.
So now I found the sample of the memo that we received from Mr. Richard Shanley. He was talking about this in the memo. So of course I went on Google Maps, and this house is an interesting example of exactly what we're talking about here.
Yes.
And it has some.
So included in the email, not in your packet, but in your email, a resident was petitioning to do an expansion just like this. And the way the code is currently written, he's not permitted to do so. So when he learned that we were going to change the code, he provided a letter in support. There is a secondary letter on the dais that is from another resident that is also in support of this text amendment as well that we received today.
Was there any discussion with staff, or I don't know when this came up in 15, because that predated my time, honestly, about there being a distinction between, non-corner, I'll call non-corner lots, and then just kind of your regular street row of 10 houses, and the fact that the corners have frontage on streets, and there is a difference in a lot of provisions in the code, there is a distinction, right? Because it's a visual to people when people are driving seeing the houses?
So in 2015, we did review the minutes from the meeting. There was very little discussion on it because the way it was intended was that it was just codifying existing practices. I think where the issue came into play is that when it was written, they wrote lot line, they wrote, side lot line, which if you actually review the definitions in the code, only indicates interior. So I think the intent was there to allow for it in both of the side yards, corner and interior, but the way that it was written didn't quite meet the intent. I do agree with you. Yes, we did actually go and review all of the how corner side yards are treated in the different districts. There are some areas where we do treat them differently, and there are some where we don't. The residential district is the one where we quasi-treat it as somewhat of a front yard. So in the residential district, the front yard is generally 35 feet, or an average of your neighbors no less than 25. The corner side yard is generally 17 feet for most districts. In the larger ones, your R1s and your R2s, you're seeing 24. But again, it's not quite the same threshold as you're treating your front yard. So this is the district where it's a quasi in between the two. And again, this would only apply to single family residential dwellings. We're not changing that part of the code.
And do we have a firm definition of what is the front versus side of a house? Because we have, Julie, what kind of house do you live in?
I'm on the corner.
Okay, you're on the corner, so your front.
So my front yard is actually on 47th Street, but
Correct.
my house faces Edgewood.
Yep.
So technically, I could run a fence all along Edgewood to the corner of my house, on which I would never do, but the way the code reads, that's where I could put a fence.
Your
My front yard is
Oh, I
on
thought it was the
47th.
opposite, but the front yard's on that.
No, your front yard is your shortest frontage along the public street.
Always. So no matter what the house, like some houses are flat branches facing, let's say, Cosset. But if they're at a corner, that means.
Whatever the shortest frontage is, even if the house, even if the primary entrance faces something else, it is still the shortest frontage.
I have actually
Right, for
wrong.
the code, the front door doesn't matter, it's the shortest lot line that matters.
That's really.
So then
I had
what
to
would
get a
happen?
variance to put a fence along 47th Street because that's my front yard.
So then what would happen in
But that's where you
Exactly.
in the case that you've drawn here, like if they were able to put an addition on this side and it'd still be conforming, the house is then longer this way, does that change which is the front of the house?
No.
Wait,
That doesn't make sense. You just said it's.
because that's shortest, that would be the shortest.
Again, we're not talking about the house. It is not the building. We're talking about the lot,
The lot line.
the lot line.
Lot line.
So let's just say hypothetically that this was 100, let's say that this one was 100 feet
Yeah,
and this was 99 feet. This is the shortest one, so this is always going to be the front yard.
regardless of doors, with sidewalks.
Correct.
Okay.
The doors in the building don't account for it. It's your shortest lot line along the public street.
Was that intended so that they could number the houses consistently and at least know where the number should be? In terms of how to number a lot?
In theory, I mean, a lot of the more historic villages, like Brookfield, for example, has the same definition. I have a corner lot in Brookfield. Ironically, my house doesn't face my corner side yard, but there are other instances where this is like this. So the more historic ones, yes, we find that it's the shortest frontage. There are other codes that do use the primary front door, but those are, I've seen those more west of here.
Most of the towns we work with use the shortest lot line as the front.
Correct.
So it creates a standardization in terms of measurement.
I guess you're not really, I'm not opposed to this either way.
I think it really just provides flexibility if you didn't want to put up an addition as to where you're going to put it. So before you were prohibited, you could only put it on the interior side lot instead of putting it on, right? So it allows you to actually expand on either side of your house instead of just one,
What's the
right?
downside?
That's the,
What's the downside?
The downside is the extreme cases where if the house is only, let's just say 5 feet off the property line, you're allowing for an extension that's only 5 feet off the property line.
For the entire length of the house.
Yeah,
But if the house is off the line, the lot line by 5 feet in one spot, you're letting it more.
which, using my own house as an example, would be a long way into the neighbor's house. It would go,
The full way.
It'd be a long way.
it'd be a long 5-foot gangway.
The other piece to consider is that corner lots are permitted to have a higher building coverage than interiors. So generally, interior lots are only permitted to have 30% building coverage, whereas corner lots are permitted to have 35%. I believe the intent behind that is kind of twofold. One, those are usually the lots here that get shorted a little bit. Like if you ran,
It's short lines.
yes, if you ran out of a little bit of distance there, it's going to be the shorter lot. Additionally, too, I believe the intent of that is also because a lot of these were constructed a very long time ago before our current setbacks were in place, and expanding is tricky for these lots as they are generally maybe a little bit more narrow than they should be, and are also corners.
So the zoning commission was pretty liberal on this issue, as I recall. But this just kind of solves for that, because they're all approved.
And again, this appears to be the intent of the 2015 change. I mean, when we go back in the permit history too, we're seeing that this is how it was implemented. They just unfortunately didn't quite word it as they should have. They got caught by the definition section of code.
That's what I asked before, and Julie, we were talking about what's the downside. I understand the downside of someone else's house, but this way
No,
you're not
right.
creating a gateway.
Right.
You're not creating a small space between you and the next house, you're just doing it between the public right of way, which.
Well, it is. I mean, it is a visual thing. I mean, it's your roadway, so people walking by.
I don't know of a single house that's on a corner like that had, maybe, I don't want to say, I don't know, a single, most of those houses have fences. You're not going to necessarily see. I don't personally think that is a nice.
Well, I think it's really covered by what Glenn said. It is
Yeah.
lot coverage.
Yes.
You can't make it so big because you won't have lot coverage.
Right.
basically. Other concerns? No other concerns or discussion? Is someone brave enough to
Yeah.
make a motion? No, I think Julie has to recuse herself.
Yes, I'm not going to make it. I will not make the motion.
A show of hands, who else is a corner lot? No, I'm kidding.
Looking at three other gentlemen, and anyone who doesn't have a corner lot.
I would so move to adopt the proposed amendment as drafted.
I second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? And a roll call vote, please.
Hoffenberg,
Yes?
O'Connor,
Yes.
Wenting,
Yes.
Egan,
Yes.
Pace.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you very much. And now, the raging Patio disputes. Staff?
Thank you. So our last one tonight is another clarification piece. From time to time, the village can receive permit applications for service walks or driveways extensions when it seems that the actual intent is for the permittee to install an improvement akin to a patio. So staff is proposing a definition of the patio to assist residents, contractors, and design professionals to better distinguish between other accessory structures and patios, and then be able to more effectively apply the corresponding zoning code requirements for the appropriate accessory structure.
My only question when I read this was, if the concern really came up in a lot of contexts where service walks or driveway extensions were happening, does it make more sense to clarify what those mean as opposed to what a patio means? I guess it seemed to me if you were trying to address an issue where people were coming to they were abusing it to put in patios, does it make more sense to clarify what a service walk or driveway extension is by expressly stating, which shall not be used for, stonework or lounging, dining, or similar activities?
From that standpoint, I think the reason that we decided to go with defining the patio as opposed to defining the service walks or the driveways is generally you're not seeing driveways that are in the middle of somebody's yard. You're not really seeing service walks that are going into the middle of people's yards. The idea was that service walks generally have a relatively understood definition. Driveways generally have a relatively good understood definition. Patios can be a little bit different than both of them. And we have these new creative folks who are putting in, new types of patios or, new patio-like structures for entertaining. So the idea was not to try to define everything else, but just say this is the patio, which can generate noise, can generate, smoke from people's cooking areas, that can just generate negative externalities as opposed to the things that are necessities like walks and driveways.
Well, the pergola was a dead giveaway.
Don't bring up pergola to the zoning board.
It's too soon, yeah.
So is the purpose of defining this so that they have to meet the required setbacks? That's the purpose really of placement in the yard, lot coverage and all that jazz?
Yeah, what we kind of just took out a little bit is that patios have a little bit more regulation on them than some of these other pieces or have been implemented that way. And so just ensuring that these that can have negative externalities on the neighbors just fall into the correct category and are put under the correct requirements. That's really just the intent. I can tell you that I've had applications come in where they're showing, a patio all the way to the lot line. And then, we indicate to them, well, you're not permitted to do that. And then, 3 feet of that, or 5 feet of it, depending where it is, becomes service walk. So we're not necessarily, it's not necessarily the other way. It's that people are utilizing the fact that we don't have a definition of a patio to utilize other structures to maneuver around certain regulations.
Does this prevent them from doing both? So in that context, would you then have to separately apply, or deal with the service walk and the patio and distinguish between the two? Or?
That is a great question. So the way that we had one come through that we handled was that we specifically indicated on their approvals that this portion was to be used for sidewalk and this person was to be used for patio, so that if we get complaints from the neighbors that there is an issue and they have their table right where the service walk is supposed to be, we can require them to move it back into the correct position.
This is where we get into trouble with the words, with the intended use for lounging and so forth. We're projecting, requiring someone to make an interpretation, well, you're intending to use that for a patio. Oh no, that's just where I'm going to store my firewood.
I wouldn't say that a storage of firewood, though, would be permitted as a service walk or a driveway. Neither of those things.
It doesn't violate the intended use for lounging, dining, or similar activities. To restrict it to an intended use which is projected upon the proposal, you get into a position where they can look at you with a straight face and say, well, it's not intended for that. This is a walkway. I weave a lot when I'm walking down the street here. No, I'm just saying that Jeff's point is, from which direction do we define the issue, is really what I'm getting at. And would it be better to say, for example, and without a roof and with the possible use for lounging, dining, and similar activities, but then there are people who do that in the driveway, so. We meet ourselves.
That's a very good point.
That's a good point. Some people don't use their garage at all.
Without a roof?
Without a roof.
Then are you really distinguishing between that and service walks and driveways?
We do have a code definition of driveway, which is a private access way that provides direct access from a street to not more than one lot or one principal building or use. And driveways have certain usually special exceptions that allow them to approach required yards and such, but patios aren't necessarily allowed to approach in the same way.
So would we say without a roof and not intended as the driveway is defined elsewhere? Or a walkway? Draw the distinction.
No.
If I was in, let's take the example, actually, this might be a good example. So let's just say there was a garage on the property. So it was one of the, a lot of the houses in the Grange that have a long driveway. And then there's the, call it a patio, call it what you want in the back. I mean, my house is actually a perfect example of this. There is full paved area that wraps, once you get past my house, you have to kind of turn a little bit to get in the garage. But there is a lot of paved area so that you can make the turn. We use a lot of that area for our, in the summer, that's where our table and our chairs and a lot of times just park on the driveway and the kids are all playing out back there. So this is, I don't know how you, because it doesn't sound like we're restricting the driveway area, right? We're not suggesting we're going to. You just want to limit what you think people might come and abuse that request to build more driveway than otherwise might be needed because it's clear that they're using that for patio. So then let me ask you this. Why? Let me ask you, because are we talking about, then the restrictions are different? You have to use permeable brick, stone?
It's really how far off the property line it needs to be at that point. So what if it's, what if without a roof for outdoor recreation or outdoor, maybe something more just refining the intended use. I mean, don't get me wrong, the use is not a bad word to use in the zoning code. But maybe, we do have outdoor recreational sports courts. I mean, mind the wordiness, but maybe it just needs to be more specific that it's...
Well, let's do it in reverse. Let's just say with the intended use other than access or the driveway.
Other than access for pedestrians or vehicles?
Right.
So, yeah, that just turns it around, yeah.
And you're not,
You're not trying to just incorporate, you're trying to define it by exclusion.
that's what it's, you're asking for this and we're giving it to you for that purpose.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, sure. So it would be an accessory structure, generally level, at grade, surface with stone, brick, or other masonry product, and without a roof, and the intended use other than,
With an intended use.
with an intended use other than access for pedestrian or vehicles.
With no other intended use.
Well, we're defining it, but then excluding it.
You gotta take no others, correct?
Walkways you have to stay away from. I think driveways is what it is.
Because pedestrians and people, it's not original.
Yeah, but that, my porch, I uses in and out of my backsliding door. But that, that's the only way.
So that would be considered patio.
But that's
The walkway
exactly-
would be considered patio.
exactly. Shh. I didn't say that. But actually, that's what a lot of people in their backyards have, right? They have the sliding glass doors, they go in and out, they use the barbecue right there, and that's a patio. So I just been saying, if you say not for pedestrian access, that's inherently limiting what the majority of the village has in their backyard.
I guess I'm just picturing a walkway where you're
would that abuse can you see a situation of abuse there? I guess I can't predict it, but the driveway, clearly, I think we all see abuse there. I'm not sure I see abuse for the walkway. That's why I would say just to the prohibited for any use other than driveway or something, or, intended use other than vehicle access or something like that, yeah.
Heather, can you read through that one more time? We can perhaps do a motion.
Did Glenn write it all down?
No, I just read for typos.
I thought you were making the motion, Glenn.
Okay, so bear with me.
As discussed.
No, there we go. I'm good with that. Come on, you guys.
Let's use some real words.
All right. An accessory structure generally level, at grade, surface with stone, brick, or other masonry product with outer roof, intended for use other than vehicle access.
Yeah,
I move we accept it as presented.
Would you say intended for a use,
other than vehicle access.
vehicle access? Do you want to say to and from a street? Which is what the driveway definition says,
Oh,
or not?
Sure.
I'm trying to imagine configurations.
yeah, if we can conform it to the definition of driveway.
What she?
Can I just add one wrinkle? I can't use my own house. Sure. I do have a walkway that runs along between my neighbor's house and it runs right up to the lot line that on one end of my yard, because my yard is divided into two. I have a walkway between the two that runs right along the lot line between the two yards. So under this definition, I couldn't have that there because I'd have to find the setback from which would be my house.
But that's not a patio.
Under this definition it is, because we only excluded driveways.
So what if maybe the answer is this? This is a general definition that we pulled together from what we call our planner's dictionary. It's just a collection of a number of definitions for various things from different municipalities, not just in Illinois. What if it is twofold? What if it's a definition of patio and then also a definition of a service walk? At which point, too, the easiest way for a service walk to be defined is by a maximum width, which most municipalities that do have a regulation is about 5 feet. Any point outside of that, generally you're looking at more of a recreational area, dining area, lounge area, patio.
You can't put a patio on 5 feet with service walk, right?
It's definitely a problem.
Yeah.
My patio is actually like 6 by 5. So just for the record, I have the smallest patio known to man. It's hiding our flow well, to be honest. But right. I mean, you're not seeing a whole lot of 5-foot walks here. You're seeing a little bit less than that. But maybe it's twofold.
Right.
Maybe it's that we provide a definition of patio and also provide a definition of sidewalk and include that 5-foot width. So maybe it's twofold. So we'll have a definition for patio and then a secondary one for sidewalk that will include that the 5-foot maximum. People seem to think that's the correct maximum. And then that way we're not necessarily trying to patio can then be its own piece. It doesn't necessarily need to be being excluded from sidewalks.
Is that something you can cobble together right now, or are we talking about?
I mean, as part of your recommendation, you could say you're directing staff to draft a definition for sidewalk that would include, some of this pedestrian access piece that we've been discussing, and then also with a 5-foot maximum.
To be
See, procedurally, not having language that isn't part of the public hearing creates sort of a procedural wrinkle.
right, I was gonna say to be reviewed and approved at the next board meeting or something like that. If we're approving a text change, I think we need to see it, because as much as I know that you guys will do a great job, even one word here at a time, that's the whole point behind having the collective group. Just make sure that it works, so.
So if we're bringing the CBD and Kratom back, we could bring this back as well.
I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're not bringing that back.
No,
I'm sorry.
This will be the last.
But we could. I mean, it's just like the recreational piece moved on because you made a positive recommendation on that, and then these came back. We could also bring that one back as well. So you would just need to make a motion to continue this one to your next regularly scheduled meeting on January 14th. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure.
It'd be appropriate for me to withdraw my motion.
It was never seconded, but it died.
14th.
Just don't tell all those developers to get the permits applications in the next month.
Is it the 14th?
It is the 14th.
We have a motion to continue discussions on having a proposal until the January 14th.
But directing staff to provide additional definition of sidewalk.
So moved. Second.
Second.
So that was moved by Commissioner Egan, second by Commissioner Hoffenberg.
Hoffenberg,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
O'Connor,
Aye.
Wentink,
All right.
Pace.
Aye. So then we have now officially continued PC case 252, which is the last proposed amendment. So we've got a continuation to our measure. So now, we're up to general discussions, any open issues, anything staff would like to tell us? So you just heard January 14th is the next meeting. Do we have any petitioners, any applicants for anything right now?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Would there be more than just this one patio proposal?
I don't believe so, no. The only other piece is that as kind of a result of your training in August, it seemed like it was identified by the ZBA and by yourselves that it was positive to have more training on a more regular basis. So at some point, staff was just going to propose to bring not a full training, blown out training like it was in August, but maybe just some intermediate piece of training. So it may be coupled with that, or you may see that in February. It will just depend on kind of the schedule. If I remember correctly, the deadline for submittal for the January meeting would be this coming Thursday. So if anyone were to submit before that, that would just impact. But I'm not aware of it. We had a potential application, but there was actually there was a property line issue. So that has been delayed while the surveyor is determining where the property line falls.
Any other further discussion? A motion to adjourn the meeting? So moved. Second?